Let's go. We're live. We're live. You ready? We're live.
Live. It's alive. It's alive.
Do it live. We'll do it live. Do it live. Yeah, we'll do it live.
And welcome, everyone, to the Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 191. Hey, the Tour de France is in full swing. We've got 4 stages down, and on today's show, we're going to talk about the 4. Rain, slick roads, they mark stage 1. Julian, he Alaphilippe's the field in a hair-raising stage 2. The sprinters, they get another day of glory. Caleb Ewan, he swerves and slashes away to an impressive victory. Stage 4 is a GC day, or is it? We will react to it now. Some things that make you go from the ride of the week and what is in store for the tour this week. It's September 1, everybody, 2020, and this is the Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 191. September 1, right? September 1. But yeah, we're talking about the tour. 4 stages in, great stuff. We're doing a little live show. You may not join us now live, but just so you know, keep in mind when the tour's done, tomorrow it's not going to happen, but when the tour's done, there's a good chance that I am going to try to go and do a live show, do a reaction right afterwards. Just a good way to get things done and over. So look, let's talk about some things that happened. We'll just recap. First recap stages 1 through 3 happened around Nice. And we did a preview show with Jonathan Scriven, talking about the route. And then we did a preview of all the riders with Mike Sayers. I thought it was all of them really good info. So I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to cut some of those things up, give some little bits of parts of those things so you can just like a recap. Jonathan Scriven, Scriven as an example for today's gives a little breakdown of the climb to Merlet. So we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll just start out with, look, the first day comes out there and stage 1, it's there's a little bit of a break, but then there is a massive amount of crashes that took place. And we'll just talk about some of the people that went down in the first stage. Julian Alaphilippe went down. Sivakov wrecked. Now, Alaphilippe, it was interesting. You know, there's always talk about disc brakes and stuff. He goes down or he gets a flat. I think he crashed as well. And then they're trying to use the hammer, the gun to undo it because they don't have quick releases on those front wheels, rear wheels, and they have through. Anyway, so it's Alan, and he couldn't get it off. Dude got to do a bike change. It's just a whole new complication, taking an extra set of bikes for everybody rather than just a few extra wheels. Sivakov goes down for Ineos. He ends up getting back to the field. Right as he gets back to the field, he goes down on the other side. John Degenkolb of Lotto went down. Phil Gilbert went down. He broke his kneecap. Both those guys out of the tour. Valls, I think he's on Astana. He broke his femur. Thibaut Pinot went down. Superman Lopez went down. That was interesting to watch him flying into the road sign. George Bennett crashed pretty hard. Danny Martinez went down. Pogacar went down. Tom Dumoulin went down. These are all, I think those are on stage 2. But the point is there's some wrecks, some people out right away. And it's always interesting to see that. This reminded me of 2010 when they started in Belgium. And that one, there was some rain there. They're going up and down these little cols. And I think Frenchman was off the front in the breakaway. And Cancellara came out and kind of quelled everybody and said, hey, we're going to slow down, kind of self-neutralization. That's what happened this time as well. The rain-slicked roads caused a lot of havoc. There's a lot of talk about what went down, why that's the case there. Maybe olive oil on the roads, maybe soap from a caravan that's following the race. Who knows? The point is they ended up slowing things down. It's probably a really good thing because Tony Martin comes to the front. He stretches his arms out wide. He says, hey, we're just going to neutralize this over the top of this climb. People are just falling right and left on straight roads. Astana said, F you, we're riding ahead anyway. And they go down the descent just right in front of the group, kind of going ahead. And Lopez starts to swerve out. He catches himself in a miraculous save. But then as the road veers left, he can't stop and he's going straight and he goes right into the road sign or mailbox, goes, 30 to 0 in 0 seconds. I mean, it was a bang. He hit that. I think he's okay. I mean, we'll see on today's stage that he's actually up there in the finish. But it's kind of humorous to watch when, everyone's saying, slow down. They're saying, come on. And then they go and wreck themselves. Anyway, come down to the finish. The teams decided to queue up for the sprint. And I think they were going to take time for the GC riders right at 3K anyway, whether there was a wreck or not. But right at the 3K, right at the 3K mark, riders go down. And Thibaut Pinot gets caught up in one of those things. He's not looking too happy about it. Probably just more so that he went down. But in the end, Alexander Kristoff gets the win, the Norwegian for UAE. He's Mike Sayers mentioned him in our previous show that he didn't think he was going to be able to do much of anything. However, there he goes. And, he's a strong guy and wet weather and just over Mads Pedersen and a few others. Pretty good. You didn't see Caleb Ewing try to really get in the mix. Sam Bennett had a little more tougher time. And Sagan, not really there much of a threat either. So you're going to go into stage 2 and you're like, oh, well, look, they're going Nice to Nice the first day. They did 156 kilometers. Nice to Nice the second day, 187 kilometers with 2 trips over the Col d'Huez, which we had talked about as well. So you're expecting, well, hopefully there's no rain. Well, it was a gorgeous day, and it was really neat to see the views out there in the gorgeous area and riding out there in Nice itself. What you had, an interesting thing though. So you had, there's no way Kristoff is going to make it to the finish. You had Higuita of EF Education first. You had Pogacar of UAE. They're both really close. I mean, they'd finished, I think, 16th, 17th, the stage before in the sprint, so that you'd be able to, maybe these guys could take the yellow jersey. Everyone was saying though that it was going to be an Alaphilippe type day. First time over the Col d'Huez. It's I think Nilsen Palace takes a little bit of a push and a little attack up there. Second time up, the teams are, or maybe it was the second time up there. I'm not sure when he took I think it might have been the first time. Point is, it was kind of cool to see him off the front and doing some good work. He got good commentary posed to him on different podcasts and such. So that was nice to see. Point is, second time up, the field's thinning out a little bit. Danny Martinez had fallen on the first time down the descent. Earlier in the day, Pogacar had flatted. He got his team Pollock, had Jan Pollock, and had saved him, got him back up there. But this time, Danny Martinez had a hard fall for EF Education first on the descent. He had Hugh Carthy pacing him back up. He gets back to the group just as they're starting to hit the climb again. Things are going off. I think that's when, all the S is hitting the fan. Next thing you know, Jumbo Visma rider Tom Dumoulin gets taken out by Kwiatkowski, who comes across his wheel. Tom wasn't really paying attention and crashed him. He got up real quick, but Wout had to use him. So now you're starting to see a Jumbo team kind of getting a little bit more decimated, isolating Roglic. And as it was, Julian Alaphilippe has a huge attack. It looked like to me, first of all, Nicolas Roche was with him, but it wasn't. It was a Hirsch. It was a U23 world champion. And then Adam Yates did an amazing ride to catch back up. Those guys staying away, do a little cat and mouse right to the finish. And as you expect, Julian Alaphilippe takes the win fairly narrowly over Hirsch, with Adam Yates coming in the distant third. And then the field comes crashing through. Well, not crashing, but they come flying through, with Van Avermaet taking the field sprint over Higuita. Really good day. So Julian Alaphilippe breaks down in tears. His dad had just recently passed away. And, once again, he's a Frenchman. He wins the stage. He gets the yellow jersey. It's in Nice. It's just a wonderful situation. France has been on lockdown. We'll talk about this a little bit, what this may mean to the Tour de France, having a French rider in the lead, especially with the protocols in place. That was stage 2. Pretty awesome to see. And you then, once again, you have Adam Yates kind of looking. See on the potential. Did he fake it a little bit? I guess he was a little sick going into the Dauphiné, but he didn't really try. And they're saying, oh, they're not really going for GC. But you see the way he rode there. He had no chance of winning the stage, yet he rode hard to get a few seconds. And it makes you wonder, maybe Adam is actually looking to ride well overall rather than just going for stage wins. And we'll talk about him a little bit on stage 4 as well. Stage 3 was Nice to Sisteron, 198 kilometers. Wake up, Jonathan Scriven sending me texts saying, hey, it's gorgeous because it's right where you lived and rode a bunch. And it's kind of cool. It was raining though. And once again, hard rain comes, a little bit of a break off the front. Next thing you know, though, the rain's gone. And he did mention to me in a text, he goes, I didn't mention this, but the minstrel winds are pretty nasty. So as it actually played a part, it was interesting too. You're watching this and you can see some lightning strikes over there in the distance, but the rider, you start to have these flashbacks to what happened on stage 1. But no, that's not what happened. It wasn't all the big deal. The only thing you did have was a rider Perez, who was ended up getting enough points for the King of the Mountain jersey, he got a flat tire over the last KOM, going to catch back on. He's on Cofidis. This says something. He's behind his team car. His team car then has to brake real hard. He smashes into the back of it, breaks his collarbone, not able to finish the day and get the Bogota jersey that he had just won. That team can't win much of anything, but I think this tour may change some things, and we'll see that when we talk about stage 4. Anyway, come down to the finish. It's a big headwind, and I'm watching this. And my first thing I mentioned over to Chris in a text is you're going to get Sam Bennett. He's not the fastest sprinter, but he definitely has by far the best lead out team, most organized, best guys. They're going to. It's like a no brainer for him to get a top 3. I think with the way they put him in position. It just depends on what else happens. You got some of these other riders that need a little bit of luck, a little bit of wind shelter, or something else. And you saw all of that take place with Caleb Ewing. As a matter of fact, Caleb gets near the front. He's like second wheel with too much like K to go or so close. And he ends up saying in his interview that he just actually backed off, wanted to drift back. He goes about 6 places back. The sprint opens up. I guess there was a big headwind, a little bit of a uphill drag. Peter Sagan takes off fairly early. Bennett comes around him. Next thing you know, you see Caleb Ewing swerving and weaving. He takes a shot on the right-hand side. He goes up the side. He goes around Sagan on his right-hand side. Now, if you were to break this down, and we can look at it from an overhead shot, maybe we'll try to pull a video here, and you look at it from the overhead shot, if he goes left around Sagan, which would have been maybe a little safer, Nizzolo instantly ends up closing the door, and he would not have been able to get around it. As it was, he goes to the right of Sagan, right up against the barrier. Okay, we'll worry about those things. Right up against the barrier, and then as soon as he comes around Sagan, Sam Bennett's right in front of Sagan, but he's got a little distance. He cuts left in front of Sagan and to the left of Sam Bennett and rides up the middle of the road, bike throw. Well, actually, he didn't throw. He didn't have to. He ended up getting the win fairly convincingly. It was quite the slingshot that he had. And I think Bennett had just been in the win too long. Once again, Bennett gets, I think, second there, or second or third, or second, and I believe in Nizzolo was third. So fairly decent sprint as you would expect. And a lot of people are making comments about Caleb Ewing, swerving and going all over the place. One, it's impressive how he did that, coming from, surfing the wheels and being able to do that. But two, in light of the Jakobsen Groenewegen feud, issue that happened, do you look at this and you start to wonder? I mean, this was much more breaking off of someone's line than at all what Groenewegen did. Groenewegen pinned someone into a fence, so it's much worse, I guess. And it is, as far as the anger. But look, if he would have. Dude, he was flying so fast. I guess there was really, when you're in that situation, how fast you're going past someone, how you can cut across them. And that's exactly what he did to Sagan, which maybe brings up a point. Sagan, he's in the green jersey, but he's not looking very impressive, to say the least. He's got some strength issues. I don't know. But he's probably going to win the green jersey without winning at all, winning a stage. That's my guess on here, because he's not very close. He's top 5s in these sprints. He's getting dropped. He was on stage 2. He was in the break, and you normally think he wouldn't get dropped out of that, but he did. Leonard Kamna, his teammate, was also a guy that went down too, and I'm sure to see how he is doing. Then we go on to stage 4. Stage 4, Cisteron to Auxerre-Merlet, 161 kilometers. One sprint, 5 categorized climb, a 3, a 4, a 3, a 3, and a 1. The final climb is at about 10.4K, 6% average, finishes elevation at 1821 meters. Auxerre-Merlet, famous for a few things. 1971, Louis Ocaña ends up winning the stage there, the Tour de France, by over 8 minutes. I think I have the actual time here. One stage limp. He won by over Lucien Van Imp by 5:52, Eddie Merckx by 8:42. Moved into the GC by 8:43. That was on stage 11. It's just kind of interesting. He set such a hard pace that 61 riders finished outside the time limit that day, only leaving 39 in the race. And they weren't doing, I guess they weren't going to be very kind to those guys and give them the whole, ability to come back in. Stage 12, he then lost 1:56 to Eddie Merckx. This following after the stage up there. So he's down GC by 7. And I'm going over this because it's kind of a seminal moment in a few things here. So now he's down by 7:34 to Eddie Merckx is. Stage 13 was a time trial. He only lost 11 seconds to Eddie Merckx that day. But stage 14, he DNF'd well in the yellow jersey. I've read the book The Cannonball by Daniel Frieb, and it goes into detail on this stage. What's interesting is Merckx was just really pushing the limit, and while Ocaña had won pretty decisively up to Merlet on stage 11, there was some wondering and some concern whether he was going to be able to do this, and Merckx was not going to be relinquished. He goes over the top of a climb on stage 14, and he keeps attacking over the top of these climbs and downhill, and pushing Ocaña to the point where he wrecks on the downhill. Now, we saw this in the Tour of Lombardia, and the Giro a few years ago by Nibali, how he does this to some riders, attacking on the downhill. Quite the novel thing to do. So Merckx tacks on the downhill. Ocaña wrecks, and he's in pretty bad shape. But as he's getting up, I think it was Lucien Van Impe is coming around a corner, can't control himself, and he broadsides right into Ocaña, who then hurts his shoulder, and he withdraws from the Tour. What's interesting, and Frieb goes into this in his book, talks about Ocaña actually dropping out and whether he was actually injured. There's controversy about this, that he was just so morally devastated about trying to keep up on the downhills and wrecking that he didn't want to go any further, because people were like, oh, his shoulder was so hurt or his leg. And the reality is that no one could ever confirm this was actually the case. Now, is that true or not? I don't know. You're gonna withdraw from the Tour in the yellow jersey with still a 7-minute lead, and I think Merckx ends up winning that Tour by over 8-9 minutes or something like that. 1989 Tour de France, went up the same stage for a time trial, an individual time trial, 39 kilometers gap to Orsay Merlet, and won by Steven Rooks, a Belgium rider, pretty good climber in the day, little long scraggly hair. He and Gert Jan Tunisian teammates in that, I think with the PDM team. What was interesting, I was kind of watching some of the video of the time trial last night, and you see Andy Hampsten, he has time trial triathlon bars. You also see Greg LeMond using triathlon bars. And I was like, oh, I remember Greg talking about using them, didn't want to use them early on because he didn't want to give away the game, this newfound secret of aerodynamics to Fignon and some of the other riders. And it's hard to tell in the prologue if Hampsten used them, but they definitely use them and I'm not sure about the team time trial, but there's another stage 5 or so. They have a full-on time trial. Greg LeMond ends up winning that. He uses time trial bars, but so does Hampsten. I think Hampsten used them in the prologue as well. So maybe the first one to use them in competition like that was actually Team 711, and Andy Hampsten used them all the time trials throughout there. It was a little grainy video. Couldn't tell if Greg was using them for the actual prologue and the team time. I mean, not the prologue, but the team time trial. But it was an interesting stage going up there. Steven Rooks wins. Greg LeMond gets 5th on the day, and then that's what we're going to have for the Tour today and stage 4. So let's talk about that a little bit. And before we do, maybe we'll show Jonathan Scriven's video preview of what you actually have here. Let's take a listen. All right, and that's what we saw today. So we saw an early break, some guys getting up the road. Tish Benoot comes around a corner, kind of does the thing where he decides to go straight instead of left as we have. No sound on that one. Sorry, guys. We'll have to replay that again. So look, Tishan Benut goes down, and then they had the break gets caught back, and in the last you have 10K. The teams all come to the front, and look, Jonathan Scriven had said we're not going to have much of a GC shakeout. Now, I get it. There's not multiple minutes to be had here, but what you're going to see is guys basically disappearing and not be able to have much of anything else for left in the front. You're just going to have an attrition race, but it is going to be somewhat of a GC race. You're going to get some guys, like we said before, stage 4 coming into the race. You're going to have some people that are basically not at all going to be able to stay with the front group. So what you have then is 10K. The riders at the front, Alaphilippe, they brought the break back. Alaphilippe then has he's still riding for GC. You can tell, I mean, as much as possible. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit here as we go into kind of the protocols going on. So you have Alaphilippe has Asgreen on the front, and then Devenins, I think, is still there with him, and they're pushing on. Next thing you know, Pierre Le Roland does a little tacker on the 5K to go mark, and that's when Pollock, UAE team, kind of comes to the front to mellow things out. And Jumbo Visma was all assembled at the front. You had Ineos; they had 3 or 4 guys. I think Amador, Carapaz, and Bernal, and Kwiatkowski were still there. You had a ton of guys still for Jumbo, and that's when Wout goes to the front and starts to put it down from around 5K inside the 2K mark and starts just shredding people right and left, coming out the back, and there's a much more dwindled group. Interesting point, at about 1.8, you started to have Wout pulls off, and Ineos comes right up to the front, and they didn't look really organized and ready to push this thing. And immediately from like 3 or 4 back, 5 back, maybe, Sepp Kuss just comes wheeling through, hits the front, and his acceleration, it was so interesting to watch him because he kept having to look. He's just so jumpy and quick on the ride that as he keeps having to look back to make sure that his accelerations are not going to drop his leader, Roglic, who's now on his wheel, but quick enough to kind of hurt everybody. And as it was, and you would see Bernal look like he was on the tip of his saddle, hurting a bit. And maybe we can take a look at the actual breakdown of the last K here and just give a little description as to what's going on. All right, bear with me, folks, here. Okay, so there's not going to be any sound with this, but you're in the last kilometer. Sepp Kuss is still just drilling away and got Roglic on his wheel. You've seen now Bernal's in 3rd. You have Pogacar in 4th, Julian Alaphilippe there in about 5th or so. Nairo still hanging on. Thibaut's still hanging on. You've got Adam Yates in there, Guillaume Martin, Nieve, or Chavez, I think, is still in there. Now you see Dumoulin just coming off on the bottom, has to flick his elbow because he's having a tough time holding wheels, and he's creating a gap back to several riders. I think there's some EF riders back there, Danny Martinez, Higuita, Hugh Carthy still there. You got a movie star rider or 2 in the mix here, and you're able to see Martin come up. Your Lopez is being able to drift up. So, and then boom, Guillaume Martin about 300 or 500 meters here decides to take it out. Now Sepp Kuss does an amazing job. It's so easy and he's like, nope, you've got it. I almost think that Sepp could have done, if it would have been his day to fly, they would have been able to have something quite easy for him there. But Guillaume Martin, you never really see this guy attack. The only thing I've seen him do any kind of strong riding, like off the front, was the stage or the 1 day race up to Mont Ventoux. Roglic easily gets on his wheel here. Now he's looking around, and of course, what you're going to expect to see is Lopez coming from behind. Roglic does a good Groenewegen move here, putting Lopez into the barrier, makes him take the other side, and Roglic kicks. Julian Alaphilippe tries to go, and you're seeing Bernal kind of drift back. What I think, if this road had it and Roglic easily win with Pogacar, and at the line you got to see it was a bike throw, so Julian Alaphilippe did not end up getting 3rd place. There were 10, 6, and 4 bonus seconds on the day. One other thing I saw there was with Bernal coming into this was he was suffering. And if that road had pitched, kept going, pitching just a little bit more instead of a flat spot near the end there, you would have probably seen him getting distance and actually a little bit of a time gap, just not being able to close it down like you would expect him to. Like you would expect him to in general. So maybe he's riding a little bit like he was in the Dauphiné, just not being able to kind of have the kick near the line. But it was very impressive to see who did have that. So let's talk about a few things here. Time bonuses, 10, 6, and 4. Julian Alaphilippe still stays in the lead. Roglic with an amazing win. Really impressive to look. Pogacar, those two kicking it near the end were very good. I think Lopez, we'll get to the overall here in a second. Lopez, I think, and Martin being able to throw the bike to close down Julian Alaphilippe, but he still be able to stay. Like I said, Bernal suffered a bit. Tish Benoot got a crash. Jumbo looked really exceptional being able to stay there. Carapaz, he lost 28 seconds. He was no help to Bernal. Matter of fact, when that team, when Wout pulled off and Ineos tried to come to the front, it looked not very good. Ineos didn't, Kwiatkowski pulled, Carapaz was having trouble. Bernal didn't, his team was not able to do what they normally done and just go in and set the pace. Instead, you saw the American phenom, I'm calling him that now, Sepp Kuss, drilling it over the top and just being really in control. Uran of EF, he was able to finish in the front group. You've also saw Hugh Carthy, who was 15 seconds back. Martinez and Higuita, I think Higuita suffered a little bit, but Martinez be able to come back from the day stage 3 suffering, stage 2, I'm sorry, where he crashed and wasn't able to hold on in the finished climb. Good for him to see that happen. Paulus was up there. He had lost 4 minutes, but he had been kind of up in the front when the stage climbing had started on the finish. Adam Yates, Chavez, both got same times. They had some help by Nieve, so they're looking good. And then Peter Sagan, are you finished? Is he still a rider that we need to worry about? Like I said, he's going to win the green jersey, but he's not going to win a stage. That's my prediction here. Back to Mitchelton. Nieve was a lot of help. It didn't look like that was a thing going for stage wins unless it just doesn't work out for him. But with Adam Yates and Chavez both being able to stay up there top, little shades back to 2016, 2017, when those guys were flying high and doing well. So stage, we'll talk about the upcoming stage here, but I just wanted to see some things so far. Some riders that have been fined. This is an interesting thing that Cycling Weekly is covering. They're doing fines of the tour, and we'll kind of keep these updated. Stage 1, no fines. Stage 2, Simon Geschke, sheltering behind a vehicle or following a vehicle's wake, fined 200 Swiss francs, docked 20 seconds in the GC and 6 points in the points classification and 2 in the mountains classification. It's kind of harsh. Roberto Damiani, Cofidis sports director, sheltering behind a vehicle. See, that's the kind of stuff. Waste, but here's Team UAE, not identified waste disposal outside of waste areas. That's all we have so far, which goes into, they're doing a whole thing with the protocol with COVID sections where they're supposed to be dumping their trash, their bottles. So there's not just out in the middle of everywhere, trying to do a little more control on that. And what they're also doing with that is they're not stating where those are to the public because they don't really want them to know, I guess, biohazard waste such as it is. And instead they are putting them on the race book so that at least the riders and the staff do know about that. The Tour de France protocol. So we'll just talk about that real quick. It had gone back and forth. And I think the realization is now that the French government had said, I don't care what we're doing as far as you guys want to do something, 2 riders or 2 staff members. Because remember, it's going to be 2 people within your bubble, which is your riders and staff. If they test positive, we're kicking the whole team out of the tour. Teams pushed back on that. Then the Tour, the ASO said, okay, 2 riders in the riders team, not including staff. And then the French government came back and said, of course, according to Andy Hood of Velo News, that nope, we're dictating what it is, and you've got to do it's 2 of staff or riders combined, and you will be legitimately kicked out. Now, let's say you've got a Frenchman in the lead, right? I guess they're going to do a whole slew of testing on rest day, stage 9 or in between there. So you're going to have a bunch of tests coming on. They said, hey, we're actually pretty more confident about the positives. If there's some worry that if there's a ton of positive, teams they're just going to shut the race down. And if they're doing that, you're going to have whoever's in the lead at the time is going to get the Tour de France win. So with that in mind, up until stage 9 or whatever, let's say there's a test positive in Julian Alaphilippe's team. Do you think they're going to kick them out? No, they're not going. They're going to make changes to see what they can do. Whether it's backdating something, whatever they're going to do, they're going to try to keep them in. However, if you have a situation where Julian Alaphilippe is in the lead and everyone is getting shut down enough where they're going to just say the tour is over, is it more likely that the ASO would say, yeah, we're good with that, and you give Julian Alaphilippe the Tour de France win? Sure, it's an asterisk, but you finally get to say, I'm no longer, the last winner was in 1985 with Bernard Hinault. So I don't know how I'm feeling about this. I think early on we want Julian in the lead just in case there's something. But once we start getting deeper in there, we don't want the Frenchman in there because we don't want we want someone that the French would dislike to be in the lead for as long as possible, just simply so that they won't cancel the tour and give that guy a win. That's my way of being able to protect against that. Okay, what do we have else? Oh, just wanted to say Worlds are going to announce, I guess, this week where the world champions are going to be. They said they found a place, and I don't know where it's going to be, but they found someplace. So good for that, and we'll be able to have world championships take off. Chris, maybe that means China. Maybe that's okay. Upcoming stages. Look, evidently the video that I play here with Scriven talking about the stage did not pull through on the video. The feed going to YouTube, so I won't play the next one because it's got that. But Gap to Privas, sprinter stage that's coming up on Wednesday. Then Thursday we have Latil to Mont Aigre, 191 kilometers, mountaintop finish, but not extreme. That one's flat as can be until the last climb. And I think it's a 3 or a 1 to a 3 type category climb, a little pitch up there. Move to Lavar on Friday, 168 kilometers. Then you got Saturday, Sunday, and then a rest day on Monday. Who gets the ride of the week? I just want to say, well, first of all, Wout van Aert, you can give him the ride of the week all the time. The guy's been, it's great to see. Like I said, Sepp Kuss, he could probably have won the stage today, or at least given it a good shot at the bottom, but he's the ultimate team player and he knows what he's there for. Wout van Aert can probably be winning the green jersey right now, but he is the ultimate team player doing the climbing that you would expect Kwiatkowski or some of these other guys to do, kind of showing them who is boss. So ultimate team players coming to the ground, coming to the team, the tour, and doing everything they can for Primoz. I mean, it's looking pretty good. We'll see though if Tom Dumoulin falls into line. I know he still has hopes, but he's not doing anything on the front. He's flicking people through in the last few bits there, lose a little bit of time. And in the end, you're going to maybe not see him quite as a glorious situation. So let's look at the overall and what we have for the race today. Primoz Roglic, Tadej Pogačar, second place. Guillaume Martin, Nairo Quintana. Nairo is the other one who threw bike throw to get Alaphilippe in fifth, Lopez in sixth, Bernal, Pinot, Landa, Yates, Dumoulin got the same time, so he was able to claw that back. Chavez, Mollema, Richie Porte, Uran, Bardet was the last one of them. Then Manuel Buchmann, Enric Mas, Sepp Kuss, just rolling in 9 seconds back. Hugh Carthy, Valverde, Nicholas Roche. So look, you can see Nicholas Roche up there. Dude can climb, but he's not the climbing that you would expect of everyone else. So it wasn't the toughest day. In the GC, we have Alaphilippe, Adam Yates, 4 seconds, Primoz Roglic, 7 seconds, Pogačar at 11, Guillaume Martin at 13, Egan Bernal at 17, Dumoulin, and the rest down there. Look, what a smattering you've already got here. Some interesting guys here. It'd be interesting to see if Martin can get a chance at the yellow jersey. Chavez, Quintana, Bernal. I was going to see if there was any EF rider. So he's Uran's at 15th place. So not the closest. So who do you think is going to be the leader coming out of the rest day? I tend to think Alaphilippe has the team to be able to do that, and I think he's going to be able to hold that in. I also think you're going to see Caleb with 2 wins going into the rest day. Who's going to win at the top on the next one? I think you're going to see Alaphilippe on the next mountain stage. He's going to see what he can do. I don't know if you're going to get it from him, maybe a Yates or maybe a Roglic again. It'd be interesting. Okay, so rider of the week though. I prefaced this and said who's going to be the rider of the week. I actually think I want to give it to Cole Davis. I don't know if anybody saw Mike Sayers was posting this out, so I went and watched it. It was the baby Giro, or the U23 Giro that he's doing. Stage 2 is a breakaway. It's not a mountain stage. It's just like rolling, almost kind of looks like on the British landscape or something. Group of like 3 or 4 get up the road. They have this little kicker about 4 or 5K to the finish. Guy goes up to the group. Cole Davis ends up bridging up to it as well. He gets in the break, and then they're going, and then another guy takes off. Cole Davis is chasing him. He's so close. That guy ends up holding on for the win, and Cole gets caught about 300 meters or so from the finish, but it's pretty exciting to see him doing that. So if you're going to check it out, the U23 Giro, do so. It's you can find it on Tiz Cycling. That's where I've been able to get it and to watch it. And I'm not sure what the whole name is, but it's something Giro. And it's a race that our own Cole Davis. So we've got a few guys out there in Europe. We've got Nielsen Palace, obviously doing well, riding in Tour de France, getting his name out there. We got Cole Davis, another Folsom gentleman, Northern California, out there in the U23 Giro. And it's been really cool to see all those guys throw it down. So with that said, thanks everybody. Episode 191. I'm glad you joined us for a little bit. We'll try to get the audio fixed for the next time. And check our show out. Why don't you share it? We're going to be doing some little things. Look for us on social media, throwing out the stage previews, stage recaps, just kind of little clips here and there. But anyway, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Janke. As always, stay safe and enjoy the tour.